Make sure you can see my screen. How to nail your next media interview. So welcome. Right away, we're going to start with the chat. In the last 60 days, how many of you had interviews that turned into clients? So let's put in the chat is 0 to 5. How many interviews have you had in the last 60 days that resulted in clients? Nino, 0. Patricia, 0, 0. Well, I guess that's why you're here. A half, 1, and Andrea, 3. Amazing. You could help me with this. Awesome. Yeah, that's the problem. Because what I've learned from watching all of these interviews is that there's these mistakes that are happening that you're not knowing you're making. One of the things that I see all the time is that first 12 seconds, that you start the interview. Because if you're like anything like me, and I forgot who said ADHD in there, right? If you're not going to get me in the first, thank you, Nino. If you're not going to get me in the first 12 seconds, if you're not going to get me to lean in, if you're not going to keep me interested the whole time, I'm going to go listen to something else, or I'm going to be thinking about something else. So today what we're going to do is find your moment, right? The story that makes you impossible to ignore, the soundbite that makes you impossible to not repeat, because what we really want to be is repeatable. And what I want to teach you is what to say on camera, how to say it on camera, when to say it on camera, and then what to do with all of that afterwards so that people not only come work with you and you get those DMs, how can I work with you? But the other side of that is that you're repeatable. The best thing for me, and if you've been listening to me for a little while, you know I'm from Jersey, which means I have a little bit of an ego. But when I hear somebody repeat what I say on another platform, right, I think that's real digital personality. That is real expertise. And I want everyone to think about how you can get repeated by other people, right? The opportunities that I get and the opportunities I want you to get are before you even walk in the room. I want you to be able to, for people to be speaking about you, repeating you, talking about what you talk about without you even having to be there. So today we're going to talk about, like I said, she's being a little cranky today, how to turn visibility into clients and authority. So the next 90 minutes, next 60 minutes, we're going to talk about the 8-minute producer prep protocol. So you're not panicking before we start. Your soundbite formula so that people are repeating you and people actually understand what you're saying and they can come back to you because you are the expert in what you're having to say. Bridge lines, which is the antidote to bad hosting. Anyone been on a podcast or a platform? You're like, not Carlin, she's the best, she's a very good host. But anybody else been on a platform and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst interview I've ever done in my entire life. This person doesn't know what they're doing, right? I want you to be able to be in that seat and know how to fix it for yourself. And I want you to have the repeatable system, because what I really want is for you to be recognized, remembered, and hired. I remember the first time that somebody came up to me, they're like, are you Beth Nydick? And I was like, oh, yeah. They're like, I love your videos. I was like, oh my God. He's like, my daughter and I watch you all the time. And I was like, oh, that's the feeling I want to have. That's why I do this stuff. Not right. I do this stuff to make an impact, to make money, all that kind of stuff. But my middle child syndrome likes the recognition. So I want you to start thinking about those things, about how you're recognized, how you're remembered, and how we're going to get you hired. But I want to make sure you're in the right room, right? Because this is not about like, just be confident and you can do it. If you follow me, you know that I am not about that fluffy BS. And it's not about the fame and it's not about promises. It's about how you're sharing your story, what you're doing with your story, and how people are reacting to your story so that you can make money from what you're doing. I feel like sometimes in this whole system and the whole industry, we don't talk openly about like, I'm doing this to make a living, right? I'm not doing this to just be nice. I want you all to make money. For me, my kids are graduating college, and like paying for college has been the biggest. I'm so grateful that I've been able to pay for school. And then my kids aren't going to have those loans. So thinking about the why behind what you're doing. I had a quick question. Does booking clients also include finding sponsors, affiliates, marketing, and speaking engagements? Yes. Media, and when I'm talking about media and talking about visibility, it's anywhere you're in front of your ideal client. So that can be a podcast, a panel, a community talk, doing a live, even just doing a live on your social media. when you're in front of people who aren't already working with you, that's actually what visibility means. Out there in the space, it's all about getting media on these, like I said, those dream platforms, but it's really, anyone who has a community, and then I go speak in communities all the time. And those are visibility opportunities for me as well. So who am I to tell you all of this? Well, I'm just a Jersey girl that spent decades behind the camera making sure that A-list celebrities didn't faceplant on TV. Spoiler alert, most A-list celebrities don't know how to talk without a script, and their egos are just a little bit bigger than ours, but they're just like us. I've also been hustling in the digital space since 2007. I'm not going to age myself, but yeah, 2007 when MySpace was a thing. I co-wrote, I don't know if you guys can see it, a best-selling cocktail book that was on best-selling lists and actually is in the fifth printing. But I've also put groceries back at Trader Joe's when my card got declined and my kids were in the cart. But all the experiences I've had over almost the last 20 years being in digital and being in media is that visibility without conversion is just ego stroking, very expensive ego stroking. So now what I do is work with women like you to install a revenue system using visibility because it's free, it's fun, and it's just about you. There's this whole thought process out there about you being thought leaders. Anybody in the room want to be a thought leader? Let's do a little raise of hands. No, stop it. No thought leaders. Thought leaders is BS. Thought leaders is something, what's that guy's name? John Maxwell or whatever told us we had to be. Okay, the first aha moment I want you to have is you need to be a digital personality, not a thought leader. You need to be a digital personality so people actually listen to your thoughts. I think about this. This has been like Carlin knows, my disruptive idea for this year. Because if you look out in what's happening in media, reality show stars and celebrity entrepreneurs are taking over. And the reason they're taking over is because people know their personality, right? We want to know what you're about, what your personality is before we're going to follow your thought process. So let's let thought leadership be dead and let's let you be on the track to being a digital personality. Yeah, can I get a hell yes in the chat if you're with me? Yeah, hell yes, hell yes, hell yes. Okay, good. Good. Okay, awesome. Okay, so quick gut check. You're in the right room. If you're starting to land interviews or you've landed interviews, you have a sellable offer and you actually have something to say. People ask me all the time, when do I know I'm ready for media? When do I know if I'm ready to get myself media ready, as I call it? As long as you have things coming in. And like I said, doing an Insta Live with a friend or being in front of 1,000 people, that's all media. You have an offer to offer. You have something to sell because otherwise you're wasting your time trying to get media if you're not selling anything. And you have to have something to say. And I don't mean you need something very unique. I don't mean something like you have to make yourself crazy about the message because that's all out there in the digital space, just trying to get you to buy their programs. It's actually about that one thing that you're about, right? And if you've been following me or you read all those emails that I sent you in the last 7 days, I'm really about you thinking differently about yourself, thinking differently about media, being a little Jersey and making those bold moves. Because I firmly believe that we're told to think, why me? And I want you to start thinking, why not me? Why not you be on those stages? Why not you be on that podcast? Why not you make $1 million? It's all about how far you'll push yourself and how far you'll let this thing we call entrepreneurship, which I actually call personal development on crack, because it's how far you'll push yourself to do the hard things versus trying. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. But first, let's start with this. Why media doesn't convert. I'm going to be we'll try call Jersey honest and give you some Jersey love today. But most interviews flop hard because we're in the right rooms. You're probably telling random stories that go nowhere. You're dropping weak CTAs and you don't follow up. But it's not because you're boring. You're not boring. And it's not because you lack charisma. It's because there's no system behind it. And everyone's just been telling you to get media instead what to do with it. I've watched people spend years trying to like build their media presence without having the revenue. And they become the person everyone recognizes as the expert, but nobody hires. It's like being insta famous without having a bank account to go with it. And meanwhile, there's people who and I know I'm going to hit a nerve here, that are seeing other people in their space that are making the money, that are getting the clients because they know how to speak to the media, they know how to be in the media. And I don't want media to be one of those things that's weighing heavy on you. I want you to start looking at it as something that's fun. And the way that I've been able to do this is developing a method around it. And I want to go back for 1 second because I feel like I didn't go through just really quick. Just so, if you didn't catch the slide, I want to make sure you understand. I was a TV producer for a long time. I was in the green rooms. My first job was at The Tonight Show with Jay Leno in LA. And that was this time that it was like Forrest Gump and Mission Impossible. Like I was in the green room with Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, Arnold Schwarzenegger, my favorite, Harrison Ford, who said 3 words to me, or Rita Wilson, who I got to take to the bathroom. So I want you just, if you don't know me, just to understand that I'm coming to all of this information. I'll be talking to you for the next hour, really from a producer point of view, from someone who's been in the room. I felt like I glossed over that. TV production was what I wanted to do my entire life. Like when I took that high school exam, it was like be in TV, be in PR. So I know I'm in the right place. And today you're in the right place because I'm going to teach you my method, which go back to here, is the Mike's method. Because this is how we fix it. And it's a 4-parter. It's that message that people remember. It's the interview so that you are controlling the narrative and where it goes. The CTA is how you're bridging from like nice to listen to actually hiring you, and a system to put it all together. Because when your message is tight, your delivery is confident, and your CTA works, and there's a system of promotion around it, that's when you get booked. That's how you make money from media. And when you have pieces missing from that, it's when it falls flat and when it doesn't work. But I want you to remember this part. I'm going to go through each piece of it because as I go through all the pieces of what I promised you on the registration page, like the protocols and all the soundbite stuff, this is what we always come back to, and that you have to kind of conquer. And when I work in my Mike to Million signature program, which I'll tell you about later, we go through each one of these in depth so that you are ready to go on your next platform. So let's start with messaging. It's what you say. And so often I'll get with clients and they'll be like, well, especially, my 8-figure clients. They're like, Beth, I'm on stages all the time, but I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. And what we change their story into is something that's repeatable. If you listen to me on podcast, I'm quoting my friends all the time because I've taught them how to be repeatable. But that's how you grow your business, is other people talking about you. So when you can really have a tight opener and you have core sound bites that you're known for, I feel like, and I hope maybe you can validate me. I hope that people are starting to understand that, and they're associating me with the why not you and the why not now. I've been saying it for a couple years. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I got a couple of nods. Awesome. And being bold and being out there. Like that's the stuff that I want to be known for. And the messaging, it helps you be known for that and creating those sticky lines, because I want people to be like, oh my God, did you hear what Carlin said last week on oh, I forgot the SIS. Sorry, Carlin. I was on it too. Stiletto, say it.
Startups and stilettos.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm like, I knew it was stilettos in Stardust and Stilettos, right? What did Beth say? What did Carlin say? What was that conversation? I want other people talking about us after the interview went live. By the way, the interview is live. Go on Apple and find Startups and Stilettos and you can listen to our conversation. Okay. The next part is interview. And I want to, every time I go through one of these, I want to like take things off your shoulder, because it's not about being charismatic. It's about actually being intentional, how you're delivering what you're saying so people are interested. Because interviews are not improvised. Interviews are not winging it. And yes, I'm calling you out. Don't just go have a conversation, really having a plan. What are the bridge lines? What are the authority stories? What are the positioning beats? So, because strategy is going to beat out an overzealous personality, the ones that turn it on when the camera goes on, that's actually not going to get them anywhere. It's the strategy. Those people, because I work with them, are usually the broke ones. The third piece is the CTA. And this is bridging from like, I'm a grateful guest to how do I give you my money DMs? And this is where people blow it really hard because they're like, well, follow me on Instagram. Girls and boys, that is a destination. When you give them a convertible CTA, thank you, Carlin. When you give them a convertible CTA, you're giving them a next step tied to the value of the conversation you just had. Like, for example, I could say, hey, grab my guide, grab my playbook about how to make money from podcasting, or grab my 10K podcast profit playbook, the exact steps I use to close a $12,000 client from one interview. I'm not telling them to go find me somewhere. I'm giving them a destination to go to and a next step to take. And that's the difference between a good CTA and a bad one. And the last one is the system. Because what happens when the mic goes off is usually, again, I'm going to call you all out, it's usually nothing. Nothing actually happens. But when you work with me in Mike to Millions in my programs, there's a whole system of promotion, email marketing, social media marketing, and email nurture sequences behind that and repurposing clips so that you are allowing that podcast or that stage or that anything you're doing to live on and continue making you money. If you go look at my Instagram, not now, look at it later, you'll see that I reshare the podcast and the stages that I'm on over and over and over again. And what most of my clients do when they come to me, they're sharing it once or they're sharing it in their story and they're moving on. But we're leaving so much money on the table because I want your interviews to be putting in overtime and I want your interviews to be working for you. And that's a big difference between what you're doing now and what you could be doing. So in the chat, and I'm going to call you out this whole time because I really want you to change the way you're thinking about it. Give me an M if you think your message is leaking, an I if it's your interview, a CTA if it's your CTA, or S if it's your system. Which one is leaking for you, do you feel in your business or feel most called out? Because I want to see like where everybody is as well. So we have M's and S's, system, messaging, and system. Good, that's the things I'm the best at. Awesome. We're going to go over that stuff today. And say what Sharon said, I'm curious to know what prod. Awesome. CS. Oh, it's interesting. Okay. So we have a lot of CS's, but I have to tell you that most people, it's actually the interview. The C and S is the easy part, right? It's just giving you that piece, but it's the actual interview that you're doing. That's usually the biggest problem. And it's the most work we do together in the program. If we can keep something between us, I actually did an interview recently that when the interview was over, I told her I wasn't going to promote it because it wasn't good. I said it much nicer than that, I promise. I said it much nicer than that. But as the interview was winding down, I'm saying to myself, this is so effing boring. I'm bored and I'm the one doing the interview. So after she got off over being a little ego hurt, we re-recorded it and it was amazing. Right? So being really aware of what's working and not working for you, because if I was to just not say anything and then not promote the interview, that doesn't help either of us. And it wastes all of our time because I want the interview to actually be one of the integral pieces. And the other pieces is just teaching you the CTA and how to work with it. But the first thing that I want to kind of go over today. So now that you understand where you're leaking, I want you to think about the message. That was the M, right? What's happening in the first 12 seconds? Because when I was producing TV, I could smell when a guest was going to bomb. You could just tell. They were like in the green room, like looking at their notes, because this was before, our phones that we had now. I worked there a couple years ago, right? They were like looking at their notes, or they're like, they're really nervous, or they're pacing, and their publicist is trying to calm them down. Because what I find most, and if you follow me in my stories, I am posting often when I see bad interviews on morning TV or even late night TV, because now after this class, I want you to go watch talk shows and see who's good and see who's bad, because A-listers flop all the time. I did a story recently. David Schwimmer was promoting a movie that he was in, and he literally answered a question about like he was telling a story, but he got lost in his head during the story and finished his comment was, and that's it. And even Robin Roberts was like, okay, because he didn't practice. You can tell. Glenn Powell is doing all this promo right now for his new football Hulu. I don't know if you guys, well, I follow Glenn Powell. Maybe you guys don't, but I followed him. He's doing this new Hulu TV show. I was like, Glenn, you are so much better than this. Why is nobody prepping you for what you're saying? He must have said, or you know what I mean, 16 times in his Jimmy Kimmel interview. And that was the Jimmy Kimmel interview after he came back from being suspended. Don't you think more people are watching you, Glenn? Yeah, his interview is not great. 100%. Yeah, sometimes I lose the plot too, Carlin. Carolyn, I understand. Okay, so let's move on. I want to give you some demos because this is what I mean. I help people reach their goals. Great. How many people here help people reach goals? Give me raise of hands. A lot of, right? But so do 47 other people on LinkedIn and Instagram. How about I help women make 10K from borrowed audiences, right? It's sticky, it's visual, and makes the audience think, wait, I can do that instead of, okay. And the answer can be anything. The answer can be anything from being really specific or being really niche, but what it can't be is something everyone else is saying. Because that's the difference between getting like those DMs, like that was so cool, and getting the, hey, I want to work with you. And I want you to think about what your 12 seconds are being, what your 12 seconds sound like so that you can make it better. Because helping people reach their goals or being really specific about how you help them reach their goals and what the goals are when they get there make you unique. And when you're out in the media, you know how much noise is out there. When you're out in the media, that's what's making a big difference. Because it's not about being impressive, it's about being repeatable. We're always thinking about how to be smart, how to be right, different, how to be out there. I want you to be more simple. You're too like we're almost too smart for it. We want to make it so complex and we want people to understand something. We need people to understand the kernel of what it is that you actually teach and to know that you're their person. Because I want you to really change what that messaging is about so that it can be repeatable. Think about like what your favorite quote, or Brene Brown has a new book out, so I'm sure there's some quote she's saying that everyone's commenting, or your favorite TEDx talk. What is that one thing that you can remember from somebody else's interview? How do we make you have something that other people can remember from your interview? Because that's part of the system that converts listeners into clients and gets you that 10K months. Because having somebody being able to repeat you versus going, she's a nice person, is the goal that we're trying to get to. So I want to lock this in. Here's your filter. If they can't repeat it, they won't remember it. And if they won't remember it, they can't hire you. And that's my repeatability. It's not about dumbing down your expertise, about making your brilliance stick. And like I said, it's not about being smart. When your message travels without you, when people are quoting your soundbite to their friends, and when the host is bringing back the thing that you said weeks later, that's when the interviews change. When I hear somebody talking about me on their podcast, that's when I'm actually getting DMs. So building that repeatable messaging every time, that's where having the system and somebody like me in your corner to help you create that system with you and create that messaging with you. So it's not overthinking, because I know how overthinking comes in. And I want you not only to think about being repeatable, but the other side of that is how you're prepping for each call, for each visibility opportunity. And I use this, it's my 8-minute producer prep protocol. And I switch from messaging to protocol because once you know what you're going to say, it's locking in and making sure you're prepared for how you're going to say it. Because I've had clients come to me with like pages of research about a host, but that doesn't actually get you anywhere and it's not going to help you do anything. But when you have locked in what your interviews are going to look like, what they're going to feel like, and what they're going to say, that's when everything actually opens up for you. So this is like a quick overview. I usually do this 20 minutes, 30 minutes before an interview, but I sit down and I think about what my opener is for that actual interview. Does it pass the 12-second test? Or does it sound like elevator music from 1995, which, if you remember, not great. The next one, the minute 3 to 5, is I'm actually picking from my story bank. What are those stories I'm going to tell? How am I going to make people feel with these stories? And why do these connect to what my offer is? Minute 6 to 7, what's the sound bite that's connecting all of that together? And then what's my CTA to where I'm sending people? Because people are spending, and I hear this all the time, they're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing for an interview, or I'm panicking before an interview. But what I notice is that everyone loves to learn this protocol, but 80% of the people that try it are still overthinking it. Because knowing the steps and executing them under pressure are two different things. And I can spend the rest of the time that we're together teaching you this, but without seeing you practice it live and catching your specific blind spots, most people tank it. It's one of the things we learn and we do inside the Mike to Millions program. So interviews become muscle memory, and you're not rambling, you're not overthinking, and you never walk in shaky, and your interviews start to convert rather than being nice coffee chats with Carolyn and Sonia, right? We want these to actually work for our business. So once you have your messaging locked in and you know how you're going to get there, I want to work next on your conversion soundbite. I'm going to get a quick, actually, I'm going to stop before we get there. Any questions? I know I just gave you two different things to think about. I want to go back in here and see if I missed any questions. Let's see.
I had a question, Beth, that I put in there about like starting out and, in your soundbite, you have the, the $10,000 a month, but I'm assuming you didn't start that way. So what was your message back then?
My message back then, so I was teaching how to actually make media. So it was more about like how to get on the media, how to make media work for you and work for your business. But it's really what that specific transition or transformation you're making with your clients. It doesn't need to be a number. It could be an impact. It could be a thing you make you change. Instead of I help people reach their goals, is I help people show up on media as confidently themselves and become the digital personality they've always wanted to be. Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, cool. I help entrepreneurs stay happily married. Good, Angela. I've been married for 25 years. How do you lock this in when the interview starts off boring? Carolyn, we're going to get to that. Those are bridge lines and how to make it more fun for you and for the people watching. But let's start with the soundbite, because I want you to really think about what you're saying on the interview that gets people to think, she gets me, that's my situation, and if she solved it for herself, she can solve it for me. Because when a story is not only relatable, repeatable, it's results driven, that's when people are going to DM you. That's when your answer is going to get people to get into movement and actually come into your DMs and DM you. Because I want you to think of these visibility opportunities as silent sales conversations, one-sided sales conversations. Yes, they're interviews, and yes, you're there for the host. If you're any hosts here, I apologize, but we're not really talking to you. We're actually talking, sorry, Car, we're talking to the people that are in the audience listening to us. So depending on what we do, thinking about who that listener is. Are they picking their kids up from school? Are they driving carpool? Are they folding socks? Are they, when are they listening to the interview, the podcast, the stage, what they're doing, right? Are you the 17th speaker in a 2-day event, right? Which they're all done listening to anybody. How are those people going to know that you're going to understand who they are and what they're about? Because many of us ramble. Anybody want to raise their hand that they're a rambler? Thank you. I know. So having that soundbite really dialed in so you're not a rambler. Let me give you an example. I was listening to a private client's podcast recently, which honestly sometimes it's hard. But it was like, what's your best advice for scaling a business? And she was like, well, it depends. There's a lot of different approaches. It varies by industry. And I was like, oh my God, I need to listen to this. But if I was listening, I would have turned off already. What we turned her soundbite into is scaling isn't about working harder. It's about building 3 things: systems, team, and marketing. And that's how my clients go from 6 to 7 figures. Can you guys see that shift? Can I get a yeah? You guys see that shift? Because, oh, where'd it go? There you go. Thank you. The first version doesn't make sense, but the second one is sticky. And you're like, oh, systems, team, and marketing, right? I can hold on to those three. And now I'm going to understand what she's going through and what she's trying to get to in the rest of what she's doing. So let's do a little before, here, let me go back. Before, I'd love if somebody was brave enough to answer the what do you do question. Anybody want to do a little quick hot seat? Raise your hand. Carolyn, how did I know it was going to be you? Go ahead, unmute. There you are. Okay. So what's the, when you're on a platform and somebody says, what do you do? What's your answer?
Therapists call me when they're ready to tap into the gold mine of group offers so they can scale back their one-on-one caseload without losing any of the money they're making.
Okay. So what is the real transformation though?
That they can swap a day of one-on-one work for one group and have the rest of that time off.
Okay. So you already have the answer, which we already have the answer. So if what you first said, I'm listening and it was too many words. I got lost in it. Gold mine. You gave me marketing words. But the second answer, you gave me media words. And thank you for being a great student. Because the media words, right? You're like, right? It's like talking. So a lot of times when we go on to visibility opportunities, we're talking like we're writing our marketing captions. But the second answer was a media answer. Can you repeat it? Do you know what you said?
Yeah, that they get to swap a day of one-on-one clients for a single hour with a group and have the rest of the time off.
Right. So if I'm interviewing you on a podcast and I'd be like, Carolyn, what do you do? And you said that as a therapist, if I'm a therapist, then I'm like, yeah, she understands what I'm dealing with rather than like this aspirational gold mine, blah, blah, blah. That's a big difference. So next time you're on a platform, we need the second answer, not the first one.
Got it.
Awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Can we get claps for Carolyn for being brave? Awesome. Okay. I'm going to move through a little bit because I keep talking. Okay. I'm gonna move through because we answered. I keep talking about this stuff. Okay. Let me go back to where I am in my script because sometimes I get lost. Okay, let's go to sound bites. Oop. Sorry. I made this shorter this morning and I didn't take out one of the slides. Okay. So before we get to the sound bites, oop, more people are coming in. I want to just go over like how you actually implement this. And Carolyn showed us a little bit, but I want you to really think about what's happening in the interview before you get there. Because the host is going to ask you something unexpected. And the instinct you're going to have, a lot of people who, especially if you're not going to practice and you're not going to plan, is you might freeze and you might not know what to say. But I want you to really figure out what's missing and how you can execute, right? How you can have the 8-minute prep, how you can have the right soundbite, and how writing the CTAs that don't make people go just to follow your Instagram and actually go to follow you will make a difference in your business. Because knowing how to do this is the difference between going on 52 podcasts and nothing happened and going on 5 podcasts and making $100,000. So I just want to really grain that into your brain that it's about the prep. It's about having a framework. It's about having a system to making this all work for you. Okay, so let's get to the blind spot because we're going to go back to the CTA. Anyone want to put their CTA into the chat and we can kind of go through like what your CTAs are? Because most people's CTAs are follow me on Instagram. Oh. Right, follow me on Instagram versus, like I said before, grab my guide, clients use to book 12K from one interview. Because follow me on Instagram is not a destination, it's just a place to go. But the grab my 5-step guide is actually pushing them somewhere. Because like when you finish an interview, the audience wants to know more about you, right? They want to know what you're doing. They want to, if they've fallen in love with your digital personality, they want to know where to go next. And giving them something specific that ties to a result in the conversation you've already been having. Too often I listen to my clients' podcasts And it's like, well, go listen to ABC, but you've been talking about XYZ for 45 minutes. Why it doesn't connect? The whole conversation, like again, goes back to being a sales call, goes back to actually having whatever you're talking about connect to the CTA. And one big thing is your CTA should not wait to the end of your conversation. If you've listened to any of my podcast interviews, in the first 6 minutes, you know who I am, what I do, what I offer, and what my CTA is. That's on purpose. When you work with me in my Mike to Millions program, we really create, I call it your convertible episode. You know when you're saying things and how to say things so that everything works in your favor rather than you just, again, just having a conversation. Because I think somebody wrote lead magnet in there, and thank you for doing that, because it's not a random freebie. It's actually connected, like I said, connected to what you're doing, connected to who you are, right? So we want to connect it to what the audience has already heard. We want it not to be written in marketing lingo, right? We want it to be that conversational, like you're telling your friend, and designed to move it closer to buying your offer. Because having it be, right, that non-destination destination, instead of flipping the revenue switch for understanding that you're going to need this, teasing it in the conversation, talking about it throughout the conversation, positioning it as something your clients use to gain that transformation that you offer, rather than it's a throwaway at the end of the conversation. It's really it's wasted space, because nobody hires you because you're nice. Nobody's like, oh my God, I heard this girl on the podcast, and like Kat, she sounds so nice, right? No, what does Kat do? Who is Kat? They hire you because you're clear, you give them value, and they're not just, you don't want to just get those DMs that are like, you're so amazing, you're so inspiring. No, I want you to get the DMs that are like, hey, how do I work with you and what you're about? Because I always say this, compliments feed your ego, CTAs build your revenue. Compliments don't convert, CTAs do, and that's what's going to make a change in your business. But I hear you already, Beth. I don't want to sound salesy, but you're only going to sound salesy if you are not confident in what you're saying and if you are sleazy about it. I think the worst is, so if this resonates with you, oh my God, that like makes me crazy. If this resonates, who talks like that? Does anyone here talk like that? No, no one here talks. The Cat talks like that. No more Cat. You're done talking like that, right? It's not random, and being confident in it. And again, tying it back directly to what you do, using those words, like those pain point words that they use. I hope what you're getting from so far in this conversation, that this is a strategy to make a difference in the audience's life and not just having a conversation. When you do a podcast, or when you do a stage, or when you do a community talk, it's about moving people along, not educating them. And I think a lot of us get stuck in this, like, well, we want to give them all the information, and then we feel weird about asking for the sale. No longer are you going to do that, because I want you to have strong CTAs that are going to get you to where you want to be. So no more follow me on Instagram. Definitely no more check out my website, especially, I'm looking at everyone's name, especially anyone here, maybe Kat Parks, we could probably spell that. But the rest of us, I don't think people can spell I know people can't spell my name, right? Or subscribe to my newsletter. Why should I care? And I want you to ask yourself that when you're creating their CTAs. Why do they care? And if your answer is, well, they want or they need, no. What is that deep, dark pain point that they're thinking? I know it's like so, I don't know, whatever-y. Like what they're thinking about at 3 o'clock in the morning, but that's literally what it is. What are they telling their friend? When I when I changed everything I did on this for this, I literally changed this whole call about 6 weeks ago. And I called Emily and I was like, I can't, I had that conversation. What are the words that's happening there? That's what your CTA needs to be about. And that's what your conversation needs to be about, so you can get them into your funnels. And that's really what we want, right? We want them to get them DMs. We want to get them in our funnels. We want to get them through our programs. It's not just about listening to us, but it's about what's happening after that conversation. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and give you some Jersey love before we get to the bridge lines, because I'm getting, thank you for getting me for sending me these DMs like on the Zoom chat and also just between me and you. And I'm not going to call you out, but one person just wrote like, well, I've done media programs before. And I'm so glad you said that because if anyone here done a PR or media program before? No? Awesome. No one taught you bad habits. Anybody? No, I just went through all the pages. Couple people? Well, even better. I'm so glad you're here then, because no one, like I said, no one taught you bad habits. But usually what they're teaching you is they're teaching you backwards. The whole industry of visibility is obsessed with getting on the media and getting the booking, where they're actually ignoring the conversion mechanics that actually get you money in your bank account. We start at bookings that you're getting and build the conversion layer on top of it. Because I want you to be in that category instead of like, oh my God, I saw you on Good Morning America. Oh my God, I made 6 figures from people buying my products on Good Morning America, from being on that stage, from being on that panel, from being on that podcast. I don't want you to think about how to get the media, honestly. How to get the media is the easy part. Everybody in here knows somebody who has a platform they should be on. And I don't mean that everyone needs to be on freaking Amy Porterfield and Marie like that's actually not going to help your business. But everyone here has somebody who has their ideal client. You're probably just not collaborating with them enough. Another thing that we do in my programming, but getting you to that point. So I just want to go back to before we move on to the bridge lines, which I think is really important. I got a lot of dittos. Awesome. It's better to get them to download something. Joanna asked, is it better to get them to download something or book a free consult? It depends on if it's a warm audience. I'm never going to book a free consult from a podcast or a stage. That's never going to happen. I don't know you, but I'm going to download your thing and start to follow you. And then maybe on the back end, I would do that. It's a really good question. Okay. So let me get back to ditto. Yeah, I like to build the know, like, and trust. Exactly. Okay, so let's get through some bridge lines. This is what I was talking about before. When you have that really bad interviewer that doesn't know how to have a conversation with you and they're just talking about themselves, you can do raise of hands. You've been on a podcast or a stage or been a panel interview and they're like, well, that's really interesting. And then they ask you the next question and you're like, wait, we didn't even finish discussing this point. So how to combat, yeah, raise of hands. Yeah, it's so funny. Okay, so how to combat bad interviews. This is the way I like to do it. And this is my insider, like producer prep brain comes into this because there are show safe, I call them show safe phrases that you can drop to redirect any conversation back to your offer without hijacking the actual conversation. These are 3 of them. That's exactly what I work on with my clients. It's instant relevance without like being weird about it. That reminds me of a client who, social proof wrapped in a story, or the framework I use for this is positioning you as the expert. They work because you're genuinely answering the question, but you're just kind of steering the audience back to seeing you as the solution. Because sometimes we get asked really weird questions. It's like, I call it GPS for interviews because people like to go on tangents and everyone thinks they're a great interview host and they're not. So when you have to direct the conversation and you want to get the conversation back on the rails, bridge lines are things that we can use to get there.
I am headed off. I'm actually going to have breakfast with somebody, brunch, I guess.
Somebody, whoever that is, please
go to
mute yourself.
Put away kids' clothes. I gotta get a file changed.
Oh my God.
Back there.
Don't see who it is. Whoever's talking. There we go. Okay, thank you. Okay, so bridge lines. Let's make this clear in how you do this. Because random questions or that WTF question that you get asked, like I literally got asked this question recently, like what's your favorite pizza topping? My friends, I'm lactose intolerant. I've never had pizza. Like not real pizza at least. I know, it's sad. But I was like, instead of embarrassing the host and being like, well, I don't eat pizza, I answered pepperoni because I do like pepperoni. But I said, interviews are like pizza. It's the foundation isn't solid, nothing on top matters. And that's why I created my program, Mike to Millions, my system that clients use to turn visibility into money. Right? It's using where they're going with the conversation and where you want to be with the conversation. Or what's the biggest mistake you've made in business? You know, answering it is thinking visibility equals revenue, but it doesn't, right? Instead of giving a big mistake, I'm telling you what mistakes my clients made and then taking it back to what the conversation is. It's always bringing it back to the conversation and where you want to go with it. Because 90% of interviews lose their clients exactly when they answer questions, right? Because if you're boring and you're not going to be able to engage with the conversation, like if I was like, well, I don't like pizza, but I have to answer the question. I have to humor them. I have to like be with the audience and where we're going with it. And that's how I get to take the conversation back to where I want to go. It always makes me think of like I don't know if any Today Show watchers, Savannah Guthrie is so good at this. Her guests will go off the rails and start talking about something else, and she'll bring them right back to the conversation. But we don't have Savannah Guthrie interviewing us. We have to do that for ourselves. And the permission piece here is that politicians don't answer questions, so why should you? If you don't want to answer it, or it's not going to get you to where you want to be, then you don't need to. You are not a grateful guest, right? I want to take that off your shoulders as well. You are not on a podcast or on a stage or our platform because they're doing you a favor. You're doing them a solid by being there. You are the content, you are the information, you are the attraction. So I want you to start thinking about yourself like that. So when the conversation is going to somewhere you don't want it to go, be it comfortable, not comfortable, boring, or not boring, these through sentences, bridge lines, can help you bring it back to where you want to be. I think it's really important having things like this in your arsenal so that you can actually use all the visibility for good. Because there's nothing worse than like being on a stage and getting the video and you're like, this is bad, I'm not going to use it. I have an interview coming up where I've really been working with the woman on the questions we've been asked. And I sent her what my answers were already. So she's prepared. And I actually sent her follow-up questions. So she's not, when somebody gives me like, that's so interesting, it's like a kiss of death. It's so boring. I just can't do it. Okay. So let's see. Oh, Grace just did this on a panel. So happy, Grace. That's awesome. Yay for Grace. Okay. Pizza. Okay, great. Oh, awesome. Okay, so let's move on to the fourth one, which is follow-up, because that, my friends, is where most people vanish. No follow-up, no next step. That you're on this like, I had a great interview, but then what are you doing on the back end? I always think about it this way. Like if it's like having a date, because my kids are in college and they're dating, and I have boys, and I'm always telling them, please be nice. Please text the girl back, even if you don't like her. But anyway, talking about a tangent. I would say it's like ghosting somebody from a date is like ghosting your audience if you're not going to really use the asset and follow up on the back end. Because in my campus, when I teach on my program, in the program Mike to Millions, is like, what is your podcast stage, panel, community talk? What's that strategy line for backup? Where is that conversation in your emails? What's the micro email sequence or the nurture sequence that comes from podcast? It's got to be different than when it comes from being a normal lead magnet because they came in differently. You don't treat them like the same kind of entity, right? They're coming in after hearing you versus a lot of your lead magnet people will come off of emails or social media. You've had a different conversation with them. Have the different conversation with them, right? So it's the follow-up. It's how you're converting to calls. And then what are you actually using with that asset? Like I said before, every visibility asset is a business tool you're using wrong because you're using it like marketing. It's not marketing. It's something completely different. So I want to say this, your interviews should be working harder than you are because you don't need to be chasing down every lead manually. I want you to use ManyChat. I want you to use email funnels. And I want you to change your thinking because here's the beautiful part. You don't need 50 interviews a year to make this work for you. With the right prep, meaning the right sound bites, the right CTAs, the right bridge lines, the right follow-up, you can have 10 interviews a year. You can have 1 interview a month if you're using it correctly. Now, you might be thinking, Beth, does this actually work? And I want to show you a couple of your blind spots so that we can figure out why it's not working for you and your business. So before we dive into all the other stuff, I want to just cover this real quick. Which of you or which of your biggest blind spots have I uncovered for you right now? Is it your prep? Is it your soundbite? Is it your CTA? Or is it your follow-up? Give it to me in the chat. And no shame, no judgment. I give you all Jersey love because you have not been taught to use visibility for your business. You've been taught to use visibility as something to get and not something to use. All of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. Awesome. All of it. Okay. So let me show you some proof from clients I've had that used my system and my foundations to change a lot in their business. Have you ever heard of a woman named Lori Harder? Anyone heard of Lori Harder? Yeah, she's amazing. Lori Harder is magnetic AF. She's everything you want it to be. She's also the kind of woman that walks into the room and everyone wants to buy her a drink and hear everything she has to say. She has this like natural charisma, but is not full of herself at all. You know, if I lived near her, I would have coffee a lot more often. And she's always so polished, and she's 6 foot tall, and she's gorgeous, and she's got all this stuff going on. But she knew that she needed help with her stories. What we found is that Lori, like a lot of top entrepreneurs, are telling their stories, and some of you might be telling your stories in a timeline. She started with stuff like, I dropped out of high school, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. And what was happening was that nobody could remember a single point about her. They remembered they liked her, but they couldn't remember anything about her. So we built her a new story structure that went from point A to point B with no tangents. And Lori now has people quoting back to her exact words. She knew where she was going with them. She knew how to create the possibility of them getting into her funnels and getting into what they were doing with her. She's landed a lot more opportunities, but it's the same Lori. It's the same stories. It's just that we made her repeatable and memorable instead of AF confusing. Or Mindy, who had all the right intentions and she was telling the right stories, but there was no purpose to it. She was getting bookings, but her storytelling, like she says, was not clear. And again, we put into the program how to really make her stories clear and guided her to, as she says, clear, powerful, and converting, because the story is everything. How you make people feel in media is everything. And we want them to feel sticky and repeatable all the time. Or Heidi was one of my favorite case studies ever, because she had the classic, like, I know I should be doing interviews, but I don't have time and I don't know what to say. So we took her out of that brutal cycle and gave her everything she needed to make the money off of interviews. She had 3 high tickets come from using one interview. And I wanted to show you how this works a little bit. We took one of her interviews and she emailed the last 5 people that she had sales calls with, but didn't actually convert. She converted 3 of them, sending people into her podcast. Sending people a podcast that she had been on. We built her repeatable story, and now I get DMs from her all the time telling me what's been going on with her media, because she's been building it and using it for bigger and bigger things. Or Michelle. If you don't know Michelle Garside, go find her. She's amazing. But I did a talk for her community, and she was like, you totally changed the way I thought about being on the media. And not that my storytelling had anything to do with it, but I know she changed the way she thought about it and the way that she does things. And she actually has a new book coming out later this year, which we're really excited about for her. And these are all different experts. They're in all different industries. They're at all different places in their business, but they had the same results. Because using a system to have your visibility, because you're using a system for your sales, for your marketing, for your social media, it's time to create a strategy for using your visibility in your business. And here's something most of you guys probably don't know, because you don't work in the media, is media has seasons just like fashion does. And we are in peak Q1 season booking. So thinking about what the shows you want to be on next year, now is the time to get ready for them. Because most shows book out 60 to 90 days. So having your conversion system and everything in place by December 1, that's how you're going to bank on Q1. And somebody at your level, somebody in your business can make this happen within 90 days. And what I gave you today was a very small piece, about 10% of what the system is. And I saw a lot of you taking notes, so I hope you're able to take a couple of things away from this. but understanding that the full system can really make a difference in your business. Because for you and for me, to be honest, I want 2026 to again be another year where I get paid to be featured and not someone who gets featured. Can I get a hell yes in the chat if you want to get paid to be featured and not just get featured?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. I'm going to go back a little bit. Yes, yes. Follow up, follow up. Somebody said, Grace said, I have a problem memorizing things. Grace, I don't memorize anything. I am in full perimenopause and I can sometimes not remember what I'm doing. It's not about memorization. It's about knowing where you're going in the conversation. And we work a lot with my clients with that as well. Hell yes, hell yes. Yay! Thank you guys for much being in the chat as well. Okay, so let's move on. So picture this for a hot minute. You're going to every interview with a prepping for 8 minutes and no spiraling. Your stories are sticky and you know where you're going. Instead of thinking, is this interview worth it? You're knowing how it's going to work for you. Because I want everyone to really feel confident in using visibility for your business and knowing how to implement what it's all about. So you can either stay here or move, right? You can take everything you've learned today, collect more logos, collect more compliments, but be in the same spot in 90 days. Or let's have a call. Let's talk. Book a strategy call with me and we can talk about what's going on in your business and how you can install the things that we've talked about today. I call it your fork in the road movement because it's about being different from being visible but struggling to get clients and being visible and having a wait list. And I want you to tell a different story in 90 days. Because 90 days is a turning point, right? It's the end of the year. And I want you to think about people understanding who you finally are, getting your offers to be scalable, working on the next era of your business, the next chapter of your business, and using visibility to get there. Social media is too noisy. Email marketing is too noisy. Visibility is the only place that not only is it free and it's fun, because if you're like me, you love talking and you love being on TV, but it's an availability to everybody. And that's what people are going for. That's what people want to listen to. And that's where people are going to be in 2026. Because like I said, hope is not a strategy and hope is not going to get you anywhere. It's definitely not paying my mortgage. When I put systems into your business, that's how things change. And some of the success stories I showed you today, like Lori, Mindy, Heidi, and Michelle, they didn't come from crossing their fingers. They came from learning my system and doing exactly what I told them to do. Because with some Jersey love and some systems, everything can change in your business. And what I've been talking about all today is Mike to Millions. It's the only media training program, the only one who's built by somebody who's actually been a producer and actually been in the green rooms and actually been on the cutting room floor and editing and cutting those guests that bombed. But let me walk you through what this exactly looks like. What this looks like is weekly calls where we're working one-on-one in a small group. I only take 10 to 15 people in each of my cohorts. Last time we did this, we had 2 cohorts of 8 people, which was so much fun. But I'm really getting to know you and getting to know your business so I can hold your hand and take you through creating your stories, your sound bites, your CTAs that'll work for you and your business. I was doing this one-on-one, but I really love doing it in the group because the group not only creates a community where it supports each other, but we get a lot more work done a lot faster. And when I say work, I mean there is homework. On each call that we do, I teach a little bit or I send you a module to listen, but we're actually doing the work on the call for usually half hour to 45 minutes because I know you're busy and I'm busy too. So I want to get the work done when we're together so that I can look at it right away. I can give you feedback right away. It's not this like, okay, I'm going to teach you something, go try to figure it out on your own. I actually do it with you. We have a Slack channel. And I'm the kind of person that if you don't send me your homework by Friday night, I'm going to DM you, where's your homework? Because nobody in my program gets left behind. I make sure to push you along if I have to, or pull you along if I need to, so that you at the end of the 90 days actually walk away with what I promised you. Because this isn't hard. It's not rocket science. And like I said in the beginning, it's personal development. It's getting yourself to do it. It's getting yourself to understand that you can do this with some support And it goes back to the why not you and the why not now of it all. Why shouldn't you be the one that figures this out now so that you can use visibility in 2026 to get everything you've ever wanted in your business? For being bold, for taking that step, for doing the hard thing. And then we get to have a lot of fun along the way. I give you all of my templates, all of my, all the stuff that you need, all of the frameworks, all of the done for you stuff. I give you all my notes. And not only do we work together for 90 days, but then I'm offering, this is the first time I'm doing it, 90 more days of support. I'm calling it the green room. You can only be in it if you've been in my programming so that we can continue having the Slack channel and we can continue working together once a month. And when you have questions, I'm still there for you. This came out of people being in my program and DMing me or texting me a couple weeks later. They're like, I just have a quick question. Can I just ask you this? Can I get a short call with you? So I created a platform for us to do that. So in the next 6 months, we'll really spend together prepping you, getting you ready, then having you test out all the things so that until you know it works, until you're confident, and until you can do it for yourself. Because Mike to Millions training is producer pract, like I said, and gives you all the frameworks so that you're confident, you make the transformation, and you're telling stories from a media point of view and not a marketing point of view. You're telling sound bites that people remember and that they stick so that you can build your own program. You can build your own system in what you're doing. Like I said, it's the only one by a producer, which I'm really excited about. I changed the focus of what I was doing a couple months ago, and this is media training. This is you getting you ready to use media. The full program and everything that I really offer, my COO keeps telling me it's 10K, it's 10K, but I'm offering it to you today for $16.59 a month for 3 months, but you get 6 months of being with us throughout the whole program. And one client will cover the cost of the program itself. We start with your map. It shows you exactly what to do before, during, and after every interview. This is one of the things that I really talk about the most on what we're doing is how you're actually using that asset before, during, and after. What are you doing? Because visibility is not just about the interview, it's what's happening around the interview and how you become a client magnet and using this system to get more clients. But real quick, I want to talk about what the outcomes are. You get remembered, you get recognized, and you get hired. Because it's not just about being visible, it's about being profitable. And the system I created has helped my clients do that over and over and over again. Like I said, it's 12 weeks covering all the things that we're doing, the 10K flow, the craft your anchors. I can go through this whole list. It's a lot of stuff. Mindy, which is one of the women I showed you before, she said, this is the most comprehensive media program out there, and it is. And I walk you through every single step so that you are able to make it work for your business. There is nothing worse than hiring somebody to work with you and then them not showing up the way they promised. I'm really adamant about you walking away really getting everything that you thought you were going to get out of working with me in the program, because that's what keeps me up at night. To be completely transparent and completely honest, I'm working with you and making sure that you're getting what you need out of this. I've been doing this for about 25 years, and it's honestly the only thing I want to be doing. But to incentivize you, because that always happens, you're going to get my DM scripts that are, when you get those DMs of you're amazing, what you write back, what you say to them, and how you get them into a sales call. My pitch guide, which has my pitch templates and everything I use to get my clients booked. Because if you're not getting bookings, none of this is going to help you. So we want to make sure you're getting consistent bookings. I call it your visibility activities. 20 minutes a day will keep you visible every single day. Your Rockstar Media Kit, which is an 8-step Canva template, but it asks you all the questions so that you have that polished media kit. It's one of those things that people stop doing that producers are looking for all the time.
Oh.
And then because you're here today, my CTA cheat sheet, which has all the CTAs that we worked on today and a workbook on how to get your CTAs done the same way. So here's a QR code. This takes you right to my Calendly link. I'm also going to put the Calendly link in the chat, as well as the links to the other. Oh, wait, sorry. I almost sent it to the waiting room. as the links to, if you're ready to sign up for the program, you're like, Beth, I don't need to have a conversation with you. I know you're my person. I do a 1 payment or a 3 payment, but I'd love you to have a Calendly. I'd love you to get into my Calendly so that we can book a call and we can have a conversation about how you can actually use the system. But some of you might thinking, I don't have a big audience. You don't need a big audience. You need the right audience. And that's what actually makes a difference when you're on the right media versus the wrong media. You don't have time. It takes 8 minutes to prep, and I teach you how to do this in 20 minutes a day. So as long as you have 20 minutes a day, you can make this work for your business. I'm already visible. My question to you would be, are you profitable? And what's coming from that exposure? I'm going to hire a PR agency instead. That's great, but I can't tell you how many people come to me after a year of paying somebody $50K and getting a few placements, but not making any money off the back end of it at all, which makes me really crazy. Because I created Mike to Millions to work. I created Mike to Millions built for people like you. And Grace, you asked if your offer is too niche. As long as there are people out there that want your information, you're not too niche. And this is why Mike to Millions works, because not only am I a media insider, and I know what people want from the media, where it's not generic. I'm not going to teach you speak with confidence, be happy, smile, all that stuff. That's not what we do in my programs. It's actually implementation. It's not theory. It's installing a system that works. And as long as you're ready to work, I'm going to work alongside with you, because we don't have time for visibility that sucks. So I'd love for you to get into the Mike to Millions program. Let's have a conversation about it, because if you're doing visibility, you should be doing it right. I'm going to show you a few DMs. These are my favorite. This is my favorite slide in the whole thing, because these are the DMs that I get from people who listen to podcasts. And if you look on the right-hand side, all the 10Ks, that's one of my CTAs that I do on platforms. I say, hey, if you DM me the word 10K, I will send you a special gift I only send people who are listening to me on podcasts. These are some of the 10Ks that I've gotten off a podcast I did a few weeks ago. And there's plenty more. Or some testimonials from people that I've worked with that I really have gotten so grateful to be able to help people and really streamline what they're doing. And like you see in the bottom left, it's that why the heck not? It's the why not attitude that I really bring to all the calls that I do, so that I can really help you get past the blocks that you're putting in front of yourself, so you can go be on those platforms and go be those people that you've always wanted to be. A little more feedback from some of my favorite clients, so that you can see how people have implemented the system, put it together, and really been able to get those things that they want to get out of their programming, out of their lives. Because every single piece of this has been built by me with in mind all the things I learned from being in the control room, from being behind the mic to being in front of the camera, like the Drew Barrymore show and the Sherry Shepherd show. So I'd love to be able to support you as well. Here's the Mike to Millions. I'd love to open it up if you have any questions. Let me stop share. I'm going to put this in the chat one more time. Thanks so much for sticking it out, ladies. I'm so happy to see each and every one of you. And again, if you guys are here, but you're not on camera, please come on camera, because again, we're talking about media. But of all the things we talked about today, I'd love to answer some questions. Who's got a question they want to start with while I take a drink?
I'll just ask mine with my face instead of my typing.
Oh, I didn't see it. Sorry, Kat.
No worries. Do you recommend then creating a separate, different lead magnet and link and all that for these podcasts?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be different. It could be the same one you use. It's just you're sending them somewhere else.
Okay, thanks.
Because in the back end, then acknowledging where they came from. Like when I was on Lori Harder's podcast, I had a whole funnel just under Lori Harder's podcast, because then I'm referencing what I'm talking about in the podcast. I'm referencing her. It feels more intimate. And actually, I don't know the exact percentages, but it converted really high. It really works.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's see in the chat. Any other questions about what we talked about today, or Mike to Millions? Awesome.
Can I sign up tomorrow?
100%. I'm
Okay.
doing calls until Wednesday.
okay.
Thursday's a holiday, so I'll be out next Thursday. But if you click the link, which is in the chat, it's in the chat,
Yeah.
it pulls up, I think, until next Wednesday, and we can have a conversation. So I'd love to
Good.
get you into that conversation. And if Mike to Millions is for you, it might not be for you. If it is, great. If it's not, I'd also love to support you on the other things that we talked about so that you walk away understanding what I'm about and what I can offer, because you guys become like my referrals as well. You know, when somebody next says to you, oh, something about visibility, I hope you say to them, hey, go talk to Beth because she's the girl that knows what this is all about.
Okay, I'm gonna set it on Calendly.
Awesome.
Okay.
We have about 12 more minutes, so I'd love to answer some questions about anything we talked about. I know I gave you a lot of different information today, but I'd love to support you. And I'll be here for the next 12 minutes.
When
Hi.
you're oh sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
When you're promoting the interviews after on repeat, are you branding them with your own stuff and promoting them under your own label, or you just I just know sometimes people give me the things to promote and I just don't love them.
It depends on who it is. Honestly, it depends on what it is and what platform they're on and kind of things. But you don't have to. If you have your own template on how you promote podcasts, if you look at my Instagram, I usually just use theirs. I have my own show, so I use mine for that. It honestly, as long as you're promoting it and as long as you're tagging them. But I want you to also think about this too. Like when you're promoting it, why are you promoting it? What did you say on it? I want you to also think on the back end of it, meaning, do you want to continue a relationship with this host? Do you want to be on the show again next year? Does this host have a community you can talk in? Does this community have a newsletter you can be in? Does it have a podcast you can be on? It's not just about that interview, it's about creating that relationship with them. So if using their assets going to make them, not using their assets going to make them feel badly or make them feel like you're disrespecting them, it's something else to think about.
Okay. Thank you. Good
You're
to know.
welcome. Thank you. Tiffany, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to apologize to everyone. I didn't realize my mic was on.
That's okay.
I feel really bad about that. I'm so sorry. I hate when that happens.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Grace.
I actually have a question about preferred media.
Okay.
My full-time job is to talk about radio, right? And so as a radio promoter and salesperson, if I go on a TV show, I'm kind of saying that I don't believe in my medium, right? Or do you think that that's the case? Is viewership really down on on linear television? What is your recommendation in terms of which media to pursue that actually generates the highest conversion rates?
YouTube. That's
Okay.
It really is. That's where it's high. But to step back from that, like what's the goal? Is it to sell radio ads? Like what are you selling?
It's to attract brands that are looking to target multicultural consumers. So, it would have to be sort of a B2B play.
Okay.
Right.
It's just being on the right platforms and talking to the right people.
Right.
So if you're selling radio or if you're selling broadcast, like if you're on TV, it doesn't mean you don't believe in radio.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But if you're selling a brand and you want multicultural brands to come work with you, it's about what your platform is for them to come into. Because they're about how to get your audience to make notice of their product. So it's how are you best showcasing your audience to them rather than
Right.
where you're being or what you're not being. And what your number, honestly, it's for sponsorship, it's what your numbers are.
Thank you.
But if you're on TV, that credibility doesn't mean a lot.
Okay.
Like I love TV is my favorite thing to do. I'm going to be on WPIX again next month talking about cocktails.
Awesome.
But I love like live. If I could just do live TV, I'd be the happiest.
And I met you through Denise Albert back.
Oh, back in the
she was doing
day.
mom stuff. Yeah. Mhm.
Nice to see you again.
Same.
Awesome. Anybody else have a question? I know we have about 15 people on the line. Anybody else in the chat? So Mike to Millions is the program. It's weekly, it's 3 months, and then we have 3 months of support. It really takes everything we talked about today and we go through each piece of it so that you can use visibility for your business. One of the reasons I switched from teaching you how to get visibility to teaching you what to do visibility is that my clients at that time, I owned a PR firm. My clients would be like, you got us great media, but it's not moving the needle in our business. We're not making more money. We don't have more followers. I can't get more sponsorships, like Grace said. So when I started really transferring into what to do with it and how to use it, that's when everything changed for my clients. And if anyone here has an agency, agency works about account management. And I really wanted to get back to working with people like you and working in people's businesses and making an impact that way. So thinking about you're doing visibility, how you're getting visibility, and what you're doing with it, that's what we do within the program. And I really caveat that with like a media training point of view so that you can then go on any platform, you can be on any stage. If you want a TEDx talk or a book, or you want to be on TV, to get there, there's stages you need to be through. And we work through all of them within the program. Kat, you have a podcast interview in a couple of weeks. Awesome. I hope you use the tips. I hope use that like a little 10% of what you learned today. We do a lot more in the program. Jessica, where's Jessica? I almost want to make you come on camera, Jessica. There she comes. Yeah, there she is. Awesome. So when you say make yourself repeatable, what do I mean? So Jessica, tell me what do you do?
I help influential leaders to dissolve resistance in real time.
Okay, so what's a catchphrase you use in your business?
I don't have one. And that's why I was kind of
Well, what would your clients say you say all the time?
notice what you notice.
Okay,
That's one.
that's great. That's repeatable.
Okay.
That's what I mean. It's that's where we take it from. And that's one of the homeworks is like ask your clients what you say all the time. And then how do we make it sticky? Right? Repeatable is repeatable. 100%.
Okay, gotcha.
Noticeable is noticeable. And what's that thing? What's that also the thing that you don't mind saying 18 times a day? Or that makes the biggest impact in your business so that you could be known for that one line. And that's why I said, like, people are trying to say back to me, they're like, oh, you're like, why not me, girl? And I'm like, yes, I am.
Mm. Okay, so one thing I always say is make yourself your own best friend. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
And then thinking about using an invisibility, what's the story you can tell around that? How did you get to that? What's that relatable story that's also revenue driven that you can be telling so people can get to that point and understand that how they need to be their best friend, and they can't learn how to be their best friend without you.
Mm.
Because it's not just about the stories and it's not just about being on the platform, it's how you're using all of it together to really move people into your funnels and into your programs.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Kat, you said, yeah, I know. We get tired of saying the same BS over and over and over and over again. But it's not about us. It's about people listening. It's about what they're saying, what they're about, who they are. And as long as it's sticky, changing it with the seasons. I do have 4 things I say, and I test them each quarter, and then I say them more and more each quarter. So it's not just about in the moment; it's about the whole, the whole ecosystem of it. It's awesome. Okay. Any other questions? I know we have a lot of people that are off camera. I'm not going to call you out, even though I want to, because I'm not like that. Well, you guys, I am like that. But anything else that anyone had a question about what we talked about today? Again, I'll give you the links again to get into my Calendly. Let's have a conversation about your media, how you're using it, what you're doing with it, and why media training and getting you media ready is going to be really great for your brand and for the next quarter of your business. Yeah, Amy, there'll be the recording will go out probably tomorrow. It'll be on YouTube actually it'll be on a website on my website. It'll be on my page on my website. Awesome. Anybody else? Well, thank you everyone for being here. It's been so great to be together and be able to really actually give you this masterclass that I've been working on for a little while. Thank you, Grace. I really appreciate each and every one of you coming in today. Again, you'll be getting some more emails, so please sign up for those calls so I can support you and you can see a little bit more about Mike to Million. Cindy, so nice to see you. I haven't seen you since your book launch. Thanks so much for being here.
So I can sign up tomorrow.
Yep,
Okay.
be in the emails.
Send you an email?
No, I'll be sending out emails.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, everything will be out in there.
All right, great.
Okay, everybody, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.